Welcome to this free immigration help channel. Now today I wanted to make a video talking about immigration lawyers, immigration attorneys, and what you should be prepared for. What you should know before you hire one. Because having this immigration channel, getting hundreds of comments per month from you guys, I realized that probably about 80% of situations that could have been avoided whenever it comes to having an immigration case, an immigration process, the situations that people get into, the immigrants get into, could have been avoided if they either had a better immigration attorney or even did not have one at all. And that's why I wanted to make this video helping you if you did not get an immigration attorney yet, or maybe you're working with one, maybe you're starting to work with one. I hope this helps you to get on the right way. So let's start. Let me say two things before I actually get into helping you find the right immigration attorney. Two things. First of all, number one, remember that this is your case. And what I mean by that is you have to know it from the beginning to the end. And I know this sounds it's hard. It's hard. Something that you're not familiar with. And you would think that this is really why I am trying to find an immigration attorney in the first place, right? Because I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going. But I want you to know your case first. I want you to do the research. I want you to learn. Now, it's very simple. All you need to do is you go to uscis.gov and everything can be found there in different languages. All of the applications, every single application has its own instructions that you can download in PDF and you can print it out if you want, if you have a printer, if it's easier for you to read it from the paper. But do that research. Know what you want. Know where you're going, what your immigration case is. What is it? What kind of status are you looking for? Based on what are you applying? Do you meet all of the requirements? Do you meet all of the criteria that USCIS placed for that particular case? It is very important before you go to an immigration attorney. That is the way you won't be able to be tricked into something, to be scared into something, and really you will know if the immigration attorney even is familiar with that type of case. Because like we will talk about a little bit later, immigration attorneys, they're not always experienced in everything that is out there. They have there are a lot of different directions in the immigration whenever it comes to different immigration process. For example, an attorney that deals with asylum cases might not be very familiar with green cards based on marriages, for example, right? There are a lot of them out there. The immigration, it divides into many different branches. So you want to find the right attorney that knows what he or she is doing. And this is how you will know if you know yourself, okay? And number two is I want you to remember that you are the boss, always. And again, it sounds a little bit strange, just like the first one, but you are hiring an attorney. It's not the attorney that is hiring you. It's not the attorney that is telling you what to do or how to be or where to go. It is you. That's why you need to know what you're doing. That's why now number one is so important. You have to be familiar with your case. Again, USCIS.gov. I always talk about that website. All of my videos, I mention that website all the time. This is the number one source for all of the information that is out there, available for everyone, and it's free. You don't need to pay anything to get it. And speaking of being your own boss, whenever it comes to immigration attorneys, it's always the attorney that is trying to sell you the service. Obviously, they always try to present it in their own way, but there are in a lot of situations, because you don't know what you're doing. Again, it brings me to the point number one. A lot of times the attorney will try to get you into doing something because you don't know, and I don't want that to happen to you. That's why, again, it's important to know exactly what you're doing, and at the same time remember that you are in control of things. You are responsible for your case. You are in control of your case. You are hiring a service to help you go through it, to file all of the papers, to prepare everything, to make sure everything is correct, even though you will be double checking everything because you are the boss, you are responsible. But you are hiring a professional service that is the immigration attorney who will do this for you. All right, now that we talked about these two very important points, let me give you 5 ways of finding the right immigration attorney. Finding one. Okay, number 1. Use online resources. Now, the reason why I say specifically online is because you will find out there are newspapers, there are some magazines, there are of course referrals. Your friend might say, hey, Billy, check out this immigration attorney that I have. I work with him and he's great. Check him out. There are a lot of different ways you can find an immigration attorney, but always come back to the online source. If somebody recommends you an immigration attorney, go on Google or Bing or whatever platform you're using to do your research, your internet research. Make sure to find that immigration attorney on the internet. Check out their website, check out their Google reviews, check out other reviews that are available. There are plenty of websites out there, kind of like attorney databases, like for example Avvo, if I pronounce it correctly, avvo.com. That's like an attorney database. I think they also have doctors. But anyway, they do have reviews for different attorneys. Do research online. It's fine to find an attorney if you saw him or her in a magazine and they look like a good person to you, makes their advertisement looks trustworthy. Still, go online, search for that attorney, and read all of the reviews, read all of these things. Make sure you go back to the online resources. Another thing that I wanted to point out here, why it is so important to do that online search, online research, is because one of the red flags that you kind of want to look out for is when the attorney has, let's say, an advertisement somewhere in a magazine, and yellow pages, old school stuff like that, or you got a business card, but they don't have a website. Now, it's not really an indicator that the attorney is bad. It's just a little bit of an indicator that the attorney is old school, and or maybe not old school, maybe they just don't care that much about their business, or maybe they just don't pay attention that much to the way they run the business. Anyway, whatever the excuse or the reason might be, at the end of the day, it is still not very good. Now, don't get me wrong, just because an attorney has a website, it's not an indication that this attorney is great. But not having a website is a little bit weird, considering these days that it only takes $500, $1,000 to build a very nice, very professional website, whether it's 1 page, whether it's 5 page, for an immigration attorney offering their services online. It's really that simple. And for immigration attorney here, $500, $1,000, it's really not, it's not that expensive to invest that into having an online presence of their own. And if they don't have it, again, it might be an indication, whatever it is. If they're old school, you might think that, okay, it's not a bad thing. Maybe they're, older and they have experience with a lot of different immigration cases. Yes, maybe. But at the same time, think about it. A lot of applications that are currently done through the USCIS are done online, which is fantastic, which is great. It speeds up the process a lot. It makes it easier for you. It makes it easier for USCIS. You don't want someone who's old school and still does all of these paper applications, bunch of papers sending in by mail, if the online is available. And this is just an example. So keep an eye for that one, and do your research. Make sure you do the reviews. Now, number 2, once you are done with your research, make sure you make a list of at least top 10. That's just my personal recommendation to you. top 10 lawyers, immigration lawyers that you have found in your area. And why I say in your area is because I typically don't recommend people having immigration attorneys somewhere, definitely not in another state. Now, don't get me wrong, in some situations, immigration law is federal law, which means an immigration attorney from New York can represent you in California. That's fine. And sometimes it happens. Sometimes it's necessary for that to happen. If, for example, you lived in New York and you worked with one immigration lawyer for a while, and then you moved to California, and obviously because you like your attorney in immigration in New York, you don't want to change him in the middle of the process. But those types of situations, they require extra expenses, because if your attorney from New York has to represent you in the court in California, guess who's going to be responsible for their flight, their hotel stay, and all of the stuff like that. So keep that in mind. That's why from the very beginning, try to find an attorney that is nearby, that it saves you, first of all, a lot of money, and second of all, it will be easier to stay in control because they're nearby. You can always stop by their office if you need to bring in a paper, physical, something like that, or you can call them and you know that they're not too far, stuff like that, compared to someone who's far. But anyway, make top 10 based on all of the reviews that you search for from the step 1. Make a top 10 list, and now once you have that, call all of them and try to talk to the attorneys personally. Interview them over the phone personally. All right, now the number 3 is try to set up, hopefully out of this 10, the best ones that you find, you will have at least 5 that you liked over the phone. Set up the actual consultations with them, so where you actually go and you actually talk to them. Now, consultation is also at the same time, because you are hiring an attorney, is also an interview for you to interview the attorney and see how they are. Are they willing to help you? Are they willing to open up the information for you? Are they willing to share all of the details? And we will talk about it a little bit later, but just try to do that. So step 1, do your online research. Step 2, find the best 10 attorneys, call them all. Step 3, schedule 5 in-person consultations with 5 of them. And then the step 4 is, out of those 5, hopefully you will be able to have a choice of 3 absolute best that you like a lot. Now, if you, after the talking to them in person, you don't have 3, maybe you have just 1, go back to online research and repeat that process until you have the top 3. So if you only have 2, if you only have 1, repeat the process until you find another 1 or another 2 to have the top 3. And the number 5, once you have that top 3, know the price, negotiate, and pick the right one. You want to have options, and you want to be kind of torn between these 2 guys. They're both great, and this charges this much, this charges this much. Let's see, maybe I want to go with this one. You want these options. You don't want to be stuck with your last resort and just that's it. Okay, so now that you actually know, you have 2 principles, right? 2 principles that you are in control, right? You are the boss, right? That's it. No other way around. And that you have to know your case from the beginning to the end. You know what you're doing. And now you know 5 steps how to actually find an attorney. Doing online research, calling them, scheduling interviews, consultations, and then picking the top 3, and then actually making up your mind. Now let's get into the principles that will help you to find the right attorney. Now let's say you went for or you called them, or you actually went for the interview, for the consultation. Now what do you do? What do you look for? Okay, so there are a few of them. Number 1 is obviously you will start from calling, the phones of these attorneys. Look out for someone who does not want to talk to you on the phone. Now, I understand that most of the immigration attorneys offices, they have a secretary, a paralegal, a receptionist who answer the phones. That is normal. That is completely fine. And it is also understandable that some of the immigration attorneys are very busy. They can be on the phone, they can be in a meeting, they can be in the court, might not be in the office at all, right? But at the end of the day, you want someone who you can actually talk on the phone, who doesn't mind talking to you on the phone. Now, if you get something like from the receptionist or from the secretary, something like, I'm sorry, this attorney guy, he does not talk on the phone with anyone. You can schedule the consultation with him, blah, 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 and you can come into the office and talk to him, but you can't have a phone conversation. It's something along those lines. This is a huge red flag. I would not recommend even going for a consultation or even trying to, because if an attorney cannot talk for brief 5 minutes to a potential customer who he's going to charge you, just think about it. The average price is about $5,000 whenever it comes to an immigration case, whether it is an asylum, whether it is a marriage or a naturalization, whatever it is. The average price for an immigration case is $5,000. That's a lot of money. Now, someone who is not willing to dedicate 5 minutes of their time to get on the phone with you and say, hey, Billy, how can I help you? What's going on? Tell me about your case. And then you briefly say your case, and then they say if they can help you or not. If they cannot do that, that is a huge red flag. I wouldn't even bother. Someone who gets on the phone with you, make sure that they're willing to answer questions. A lot of times you get on the phone with someone, you start telling them your case, and they don't really want to hear your case. They don't want to know the details. They want to be as fast, as brief as possible. Or if you have a little question like, I'm just in this situation right now, what should I do? And they try to get you come into the office when you know that they can just answer it over the phone and just say, hey, this is what you can do, this is how we can do it, this is how I can help. Again, this is a little bit of a red flag, and try to it might not be an indication that the attorney is bad, the service might be great, but it is an indication that the attorney is a little bit not willing to go the distance, and you don't want someone like that. You want someone who works for you, who fights for you, who is willing to make it happen for you, and not someone who is just, because they charge a lot of money. That's the role of an attorney. All right, the number 2 one is offering a free consultation. If they don't offer a free consultation, again, this is a huge red flag. I know that there are a lot of attorney offices out there that charge up to $500 per just a simple immigration consultation that takes about 10-15 minutes. I think that is not fair, because at the end of the day, whenever you're going to an attorney, there is a 50-50 chance really that they will not be able to help you. And how can I, if I was an immigration attorney, which I'm not, how can I charge you, really anybody, mechanic or some kind of other serviceman, charge you for something that they cannot help you with? If you're calling a plumber and they're coming out to see what's going on with your whatever, and they say, no, I cannot fix it, it's outside of my scope, then why do they deserve to get paid? Now, of course, everyone deserves to get paid for their time, but that's why they have to be more specific on the phone. And if they're not specific on the phone and they're not answering the questions, then it's not really your responsibility to pay them for their time just to tell you that they cannot help you. I think that's not fair, especially whenever it comes to, if it was a $50 consultation and if you're willing to pay $50, fine. But whenever it comes to paying $200, $300, considering that you go through all of these different consultations to find the right attorney for you, which you have to do, keep that in mind. I think the attorney who does not have anything to hide, to hold back, will not have a problem to dedicate 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes of their time to sit down with you, ask questions about your case, and tell you exactly how much it's going to cost and whether they can help you or not. Now, number 3, very quickly, I kind of mentioned it in my other videos, is not guaranteeing anything. If you have an attorney that's giving you guarantees, that is a little bit of a red flag out there, because there are no guarantees whenever it comes to immigration cases. It all comes down to the decision of an immigration officer that is working on your case. There is no immigration attorney out there that can say, that's it, 100% everything will work out and this is how it's going to be. It's just impossible. Now, of course, it doesn't mean that they can be reckless and just give you very vague answers. Whenever it comes to process, it's very straightforward, because he can give you exactly the timeline for how long it will take to fill out the application, how long to file it, typically average processing time for USCIS, typically, if the interview involved, how long it takes, typically. Again, not a guaranteed time frame, but usual, right? And if it takes longer, it might. It's all up to USCIS, but you have to keep in mind, it's kind of a balance, not guaranteeing anything, but then again, not being too vague. Number 4, another red flag, is when the immigration attorney is trying to scare you into doing something. And I kind of briefly already mentioned that. That's why you have to know what you're doing and where you're going, so that it doesn't happen to you. You don't want to be scared into hiring an immigration attorney. You have to know your case. Now, of course, there can be scary situations out there where you can go and you can seek for help, but again, it should be informed type of worry, and not just outright panic where you don't know what's going on and what's going to happen, and you're just going out there blind trying to hire an immigration attorney that will just hold your hand and guide you through this darkness, right? That's not exactly how it works. In fact, a lot of attorneys out there, they abuse that. You go there, you don't know nothing, and they scare you into hiring them, and then they, make money off of you. So you don't want that to happen to you. Now, number 5 is kind of similar to this one, is doesn't make you feel stupid, right? Again, the only way that the immigration attorney might make you feel stupid is if you have not done your research on your case. That's why the number 1 thing I told you is make sure you do the research, make sure you know your case. You don't want to go and someone is lecturing you. You want to go and have that mutual conversation, that interview. You're asking the right questions. The immigration attorney is giving you the answers, and you might not be 100% familiar with those answers, but you briefly know the details to understand that what the immigration attorney is talking about is correct, and it's not just something they're, making stuff up. Now, number 6 one is, of course, the attorney, they have to be upfront with all the contract details and all the prices. I don't recommend. Please do read the contract. It's very, very important. Make sure that all of the prices are out there in the contract. All of the fees, that there are no hidden fees anywhere, because it's simple. It's simple to stick something in or charge a hidden fee whenever it's not there. For example, you agree that it's going to be a $2,000 immigration case, right? Just an example. And by the end of the case, your immigration attorney sends you another $2,000 worth of bills, and you look through it, and it has a $200 for a 15-minute phone call that you made to ask a question, $50 for this letter that the attorney sent to the immigration, and $500 to this visit, court visit, whatever. You have to make sure that everything, if you're dealing with the prices, if you're dealing with the flat rate attorneys, make sure that everything is in there. And that kind of brings me to the number 7, which has to do with pricing. Make sure that you're not falling for the attorney that charges you, I don't want to say charges you by the hour, because all of them do charge you by the hour, but whenever it comes to the flat rate, they estimate the amount of hours that they are going to spend on your case, and they give you that flat rate based on that. So for example, if their hourly rate is $200 and they know that they're going to spend 10 hours working on your case, they charge you that $2,000. Now if they finish it less than that, if they spend a little bit less time, it's still $2,000, the flat rate. You agree to it, you signed the contract. If it's a little bit more than that, it's a flat rate. They agree to it, they signed the contract. But they should know how much they're going to spend if they are experienced enough. And that's one of the reasons why it's a red flag, because if they are charging by the hour and not a flat rate whenever it comes to immigration cases, that's an indication that they don't know how long it's going to take, or maybe they're not experienced, that's why they don't know. Or maybe they're not so confident about their abilities or how fast they can handle a case like this. In any case, you want to make sure that all of the prices, they are there on the contract and there are no hidden fees involved. Give you an example, just to see how someone can get in a very bad situation. So one of my viewers on this channel, one of bad examples out there with an immigration attorney. Now this person, he had a case, an immigration case with an immigration attorney. It was an asylum case. They were filing with a spouse. Now he had the consultation with the immigration attorney. Obviously he said everything to an immigration attorney, that they're married and everything like that. They filled out the application form with the immigration attorney. Obviously, which is most of the times what happens, he did not go through the application form himself, that person who was filing, the immigrant, right, who wanted to be an immigrant. The application was filed. He got the court date. He went to court with the immigration attorney. And obviously his wife too. He brought his wife because she is claiming, he thought she was claiming an immigration status as a asylee dependent, right? But they go to court and the judge looks at them and says, who is this? The woman. Who's the woman? And he says, this is my wife. And he's like, okay, is she filing for asylum too? And he was like, yes. And the judge is like, so why is she not on the papers? Why is she not in the application? Why is it just you? Right? So right there, it's already a huge mess up, right? You would think that maybe immigration attorney forgot or something like that, but that's not what happened. What happened was immigration attorney deliberately did not include the spouse, and whenever the judge, because judges, they can just add another person, it's not that much of, it's one case. It's really just one case whenever your family is filing for, if you have a spouse, if you have children under 21, that's one case. That's it. There's no separate cases happening. So immigration judge, he just included her right there in the courtroom, in the application. Fixed the problem, right? But then this guy, he gets a request from his immigration attorney to double the price, because now there are two people on the case and the agreement was for one. So whose fault is that? Well, of course, the immigration attorney was not honest, because he should have from the very beginning just included the wife or given the price for two people, which is really one case. It doesn't really matter how many people. It's one case, one application, one court visit, one. But you see how you can get into situations like this when you don't pay attention. And as a bonus to finish up this video, I kind of wanted to give you another one. Look out for attorneys. If you find an immigration attorney and if they admit that they are not able to help you, if they are willing to recommend somebody else instead of them because they're not that experienced, I would save that attorney's number and keep it in your phone just in case for future, if you do need something that this attorney handles, because this person is definitely obviously honest and not someone out there just to make some money off of you, but willingness to admit that he or she is not familiar with something, and willingness to recommend someone who is definitely a very, very good quality that you can find in immigration attorney. So hopefully this video was helpful to you. If you do have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I will be happy to answer them. Now, like I said, I do get a lot of questions every single day, hundreds of questions every month, so it's very hard for me to address all of them, but I will start making videos from now on, answering the questions live on this channel. So if you want to see that, subscribe, because once I'm live here, you can just ask me your question that you have in the chat, and I will be happy to answer you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.